I'm Nismospoolin, and I'm gonna be answering that question and many more in today's video about aim and recoil control. Subscribe right now. In many FPS games, past, present, and probably future, all games are going to be played different ways. All games are going to be run off of different engines and have different mechanics to them that need to be taken into consideration while practicing and learning how to aim on those particular games. Games like Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, 1.6, and Source, they all have movement penalties while using specific weapons. When you're using things like the Desert Eagle, the movement penalty is incredibly high. So while you're strafing left and right, you want to make sure that you counter strafe right before you fire. So if you're moving left, you want to hold down A, tap D, and then shoot, etc., etc. Games that have massive movement penalties like that usually have enemies that aren't moving while you're shooting at them. When the movement penalty is that high, when you get into a gunfight with somebody on the opposing team, they're gonna be, for the most part, standing still so you can hit them. It may not be for very long. It may be for a fraction of a second, but for that fraction of a second, they're not actually moving. That's why some people aim so much better in games like Counter-Strike, but aim like absolute trash in games like Overwatch that have little to no movement penalty. In fact, it's to my belief that Overwatch has no movement penalty at all. You can run and gun in that game without compromising your aim whatsoever. Thinking back to the intro right there, where I was getting all sorts of headshots with a Deagle in Counter-Strike, but not getting as many headshots in Overwatch, it kind of makes more sense now, doesn't it? The netcode and the engine that Overwatch runs on is far different than other games like Counter-Strike or Call of Duty. The character models move in a very strange and sporadic way in Overwatch, making it really hard to predict. And that's something that you really need to focus on while playing shooter games, is being able to predict enemy movement. And what I mean by that isn't seeing into the future and predicting what decision someone's gonna make, whether they're gonna vault a window, jump left or right, move in different strange sporadic ways. What I mean by that is instead of aiming with your crosshair, you want to first aim with your eyes. And a lot of people don't do that. And it sounds like something that's so simple, is why are you talking about looking with your damn eyes? The entire game revolves around you looking with your eyes, but it's actually more common of a problem than you would think. People look at their crosshair and then they move their crosshair to the enemy. And by the time they've gotten their crosshair to where the enemy was, the enemy is no longer there anymore and you've missed the shot. In order to combat that, the first thing you need to do is look at the enemy with your eyes. You want to look at your target and track your target with your eyes first, and then move your crosshair to intersect with where your eyes are looking, where the gun is pointed. Much like a race car driver. So if you're going to race a car around a track, one of the first things that an instructor or somebody will tell you is that you don't want to look where the car is facing or where the car is going. You want to look towards the exit of the corner and then drive towards where you're looking. Otherwise, you're going to overshoot the apex of the corner and you're going to go off course and you're not going to get around the corner as fast as you would be able to get through it if you were looking towards the exit. If you're looking towards the exit, you can hit the right entrance, the apex, and the right exit of the corner in proper fashion. And then it becomes more of a question of reaction time, especially when you're using guns like sniper rifles and Desert Eagles and stuff like that, things that shoot one round at a time. That becomes more of a reaction time thing than anything. And reaction times are really important. If you want to see kind of where you stack up in reaction times, you can go to humanbenchmark.com and you can test your reaction times there and see how you stack up against other people. That's the important part about aiming in general. That should be the first thing that you look to improve on, or the first thing you look to do when you start playing any FPS games. Make sure you're tracking the enemy with your eyes before you move your crosshair to it. And the more you practice it, the better you'll be, the faster you'll get, and it will start to look like, from an outsider looking in, that you've been looking at your crosshair the entire time. But you want to make sure, first of all, that you're looking at your enemy, because your eyes can track an enemy way better, way more accurately, and way faster than your hand can. Track your enemy with your eyes first, move your crosshair to the enemy, pull the trigger. Something very important when you're learning how to aim in any FPS game is something called your field of control. And what your field of control is the amount of movement left and right where you feel the most comfortable making an accurate shot. Your field of control is anywhere in this range of movement, where you are exerting the least amount of force to get where you want to be. So left to right, up and down in a circle, where you're just comfortably moving. Anything past that point where you have to exert force, like this for example, when you let go, you'll notice your wrist or your hand moves back into its comfort zone. So if you have to exert force to where your hand moves into a different position afterwards, that you're going outside of your field of control, like that. Or if you're moving up and down with your arm, that is outside of your field of control. You are most accurate here. So my field of control from where I'm standing would be from here to here. And the way you practice your field of control would be to set those 2 points up and shoot in between them in the most accurate fashion that you possibly can. And you could do that while hip firing, or you could do that while ADS, like this. Making sure that nothing overlaps and nothing goes up or down. This field of control is good for something with little verticality. So Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, things like that with limited verticality. This is your field of control for these types of games. Anything outside of this field of control would be a flick shot. So like that, or like that. But if you can go like this and make accurate shots in between these points up until the middle, then you don't need to flick. When you need to flick is when it goes outside of your field of control. So if you're sniping and you see someone over here, which is outside of your field of control, which is here, you do something like that. And that is, and all of this is something that you'll get better with over time as your muscle memory starts to get better. Like if you always want to shoot at this blue flag when you flick, it's about seeing that intersecting body with your eyes in your periphery and keeping your eyes on it as your crosshair moves over to it. As soon as your crosshair gets to it, you take the shot. So you want to keep that point where you're looking at all the time. And that's how you make sure you get that. If I want to shoot right between the eyes of this face, like right here, while I'm looking down here, I'm looking up at that face. And then I'm moving my crosshairs up to it. Once my crosshair gets to the point of intersection, that's when I click. I don't keep my eye on the crosshair and then move up with the crosshair, because that makes unnecessary eye movement. I want to look up at it and then move my crosshair over to it in that fashion. So field of control here, this is where you're most comfortable aiming. Flick shots will be outside of your field of control. And then anytime you've got a target, you want to make sure that you're looking at the target first, then moving up to it. The next thing you want to start working on as soon as you've figured out how to track your enemy properly and see your enemy and identify your targets properly is you want to start working on something called recoil control. Recoil control is basically seeing the pattern that a weapon recoils when you fire it at full auto, and then moving your mouse in the counter fashion while you're pressing down the trigger. In games like Counter-Strike, it's very obvious, and the recoil is very prominent, so it's easier to see what you need to do, how much mouse input you need to have in order to make your grouping smaller. And by make your grouping smaller, I kind of mean move your mouse in a way so where every bullet pretty much hits in the exact same spot while your gun is still moving. And as you can see here, my fingers are the ones that are moving the mouse instead of my hand, arm, or wrist. Recoil control is, for me anyway, all in the fingers. Because you have to put such little input in order to control your recoil, I use just my fingers to pull the mouse down as I'm clicking. Aim and recoil control are really, really, really important. It's the foundation that any player needs to have in order to play well. At a pro level, everybody knows how to shoot. It is the most important thing that you could possibly do. That being said, I hope you can implement all of this into how you play and you can see how it affects your performance in game. And I apologize it took me so long to get this video out to you guys. I wanted to make sure that I'd gotten all of my information correct, and I wanted to make sure that it was like presented in the most valuable way possible to the viewer, because it's so important to aim well. You're not going to find anybody in a high-end competitive lobby that can't aim. You're going to find people that can't take advantage of situations or make good decisions on where to be and things like that, but that's much later on. And just to improve and enjoy playing on mouse and keyboard, all you really need to know right off the rip is how to aim and properly use your mouse. That being said, this video did take me quite some time to make and quite some time to edit, so I appreciate it if you plopped a like down on the video and gave it a comment. And if you're new here, you would bless me with a subscription. And thank you to all my nerds that have gone over to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Nismospoolin and given me a follow and a subscription. I can't do any of this without you guys, and I can't make any of these videos without you guys, so thank you so much for doing that. I'm gonna keep trying to make videos like this where it's a more in-depth look on how to do things and how to improve on things and up your game and on PC. And that being said, that'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now, my dudes.